Hey folks, today is Tuesday, December 11th, 2018, and this is the 10th video in this series I'm doing about chart reading. And of course, this is the foreign exchange market, the Forex market, the spot Forex market, I should say. And it's United States dollar, Canadian dollar cross pair, 4-hour chart. Same I've been using in all the videos. If you haven't seen the other videos in this series, I highly recommend you check them out because they are all important. And knowing what I said and what I did in the other ones will be coming in handy in the future. So I recommend you run through those and it will help you, or at least I hope it will. So in this method, I'm sorry, let me back up. In yesterday's video, I talked about a method where I used a trend line and then counted a number and then forecasted a certain number into the future. So I used an amount of time to anticipate a probable price level or a reaction of price to a level. And if you want specifics of what I mean, then watch the previous video. Now, for this video, I'm going to show you a more geometric way to get a kind of basic idea of where price might be headed. Now, this really pretty much only works decently in an uptrend and not in a downtrend. If you look at it and play with it a bit, you might be able to figure out kind of why. Also, it's not really accurate. Now, you might be asking, why in the world would you use something that's not really accurate? Well, the answer to that is I don't use this. This is actually a degraded or detuned method or version of a method that I actually do use, and that method works very well to point out points in price and time, but I'm not going to just openly and freely share that. But I'll give you this, and you can, like I said, play with it. And it's very possible that you'll run into a few improvements that you could make that would increase the accuracy tremendously. But still, we can use this in our future videos to help us. This method I'm going to show you, we can use in the future videos to help us anticipate where the market might be going if we're in an uptrend. Now, this is how it works. We take a trend line, go from low to low, because in an uptrend the retracements are the lows that are made. And we covered that in the previous video. And then we take the retracement tool and we measure from the highest point to the second low. Okay, so basically this is point 1, point 2, and point 3. So we're going to measure from point 2 to point 3, like this. Just like that. Now what we're looking for is the point in time and price where the 50%, see this is the 50% retracement line right here in the middle, obviously, where that crosses this and creates a node, where it crosses, two lines cross creates a node or a nodal point in space. And so in this two-dimensional chart, the node we're looking for is right here, and we can anticipate that price will return to somewhere around this nodal point at this point in time. So we can expect price to be somewhere around there. So let's go further with this. Just make sure you guys understand. Because I used these 2 points, this was my second low. I'm going to use that as my first low in the next measurement. There's my second low. Then I'm going to measure like this. And here is the 50% level right there, and we see it's not perfect, but it gets pretty darn close to it. Okay. Now, because this is the closest low to that, I'll just go ahead and use that. So we move over here. This becomes 0.1. Our previous 0.2 becomes 0.1. We measure over here like that. And then we take this tool and we measure the retracement. And let's go ahead and move that over there. And we get our 50% nodal point right there. And again, Not perfect, but price gets fairly close to it. Now let's look and see what would happen if we had used this low right here. Just like that. Again, it would have been close to it, but not perfect. So either one could have been used. You could have used this one also, but that would have been voided because, not voided, but nullified because we had this particular low that was lower than that low right there. Although you can still use it to measure, and you still get almost exactly the same 50% point there. But let's see, we had this one and this one, so this becomes our 0.1 and 0.2 right there. Now our high that we're going to measure is up over here, and the low is right here. So our 50% point is right here, and this one's off by a fair amount right here, but it's still pretty close. So we can say this is going to be the closest low in that particular instance. So we're going to go over here, like this, and then measure like this, and then the 50% point right there. That 50% node is very close to price, but then we have a unique set of circumstances. This is the first time where we're not finding a low. You know, everything else was we were finding a low coming down somewhere around that. Well, right here, our low was way below the line and came up over here. So price and time are very close to this 50% node, but it's not a low. So we would use we would use the closest low. So we would use the low of this little candle right there. Let me move this out of the way. So this would become 0.1, and then this candle is 0.2, and then we would measure like this in our 50% lines over here. So this gives us another indication of we can expect the market to quite possibly move down further. Okay, so I think I've explained that method decently enough so you can understand it. And like I said, it's not perfect. It's something to use to add to our arsenal. And like I also said, it's derived from something else that is more accurate. So keep that in mind if you want to play with it, or just follow along. Now let's look at some downtrends to see how this doesn't seem to work very well. We go from high to high right here and measure like this. 50% nodes right there. It's not that far off, but not great. Which high would we use? The closest high is probably right over here, this one. So let me move this out of the way. Come over here to this high like this. But then we would measure like this, and we would never hit the 50% line. Darn it. So do you kind of see the problem here we're having with the 50% line on the downtrend? Starting to make a little bit more sense where we can run into problems more readily. Let's look to see, we'll use a really steep one. Like this. We'll measure it like, get that tool back out there. This up here like this, 50% line here, and we're just way far away from anything. Let's look for some more failures. I like failures. Failures give you a lot of information if you're smart. Here's a high to a high, and then here is the low. Measured up to here, 50%. Again, we're not really very close to it. We're just, you know, as far as the prices, we're extremely far away from it. We can measure all the way down to here if we wanted to, cut through some of these tops. I've talked about that before. All right, 50% line, we actually had a little spike up here that got pretty close to it, but other than that, price was way far away from it, wasn't it? Okay, so I think you get the point of that. Go ahead and delete these. So I'll just keep this on the chart right here, because maybe we'll luck out and price will come down significantly here, but that seems to be the general consensus at this point in time, that we can expect some form of retracement, right? And we do have a higher or a lower high here. We had a bit of an increase in momentum in that candle, indicating slowing of the market's move up. It slowed, it went sideways. We had yesterday's technique tell us that we are probably going to come down a bit. We've started to come down, and this particular technique tells us that we could probably see the price move down another, oh, I don't know, 50 plus pips maybe. Let's see, let's measure it. Somewhere in the neighborhood of 65 pips down to the line from where we are right now, straight down. So anyway, tomorrow's video, I'm going to show you yet another method that we can use, and then from there we're going to start putting things together, and we are going to start looking at making forecasts and seeing how they work out. So until tomorrow, this is hwsteele.